Oh, this actually looks a lot crazier than I thought it did. I wasn't going to fix my hair, but maybe I will. Hi, it's Monday. It's after work on Monday. I hope everyone had a great day. I hope everyone had a great day. We are going to continue reading The Odyssey by Homer. Your hair never looks as good as the updo that you do right before you go into the shower, and then you're never able to recreate it. This is fine. Hope everyone had a great day for the 14th time. We are on book 14 of The Odyssey. It's not very bright out, so we're just going to continue on with this lighting, and whatever happens, happens, because I can't reach my lamp. So, meanwhile, Odysseus strode up the hill path that climbed straight from the timbered plains into the highlands, the way Athene had pointed him to that devoted swineherd who cared more for his lord's substance than any other of the serfs Odysseus owned. He found him sitting in the lodge of his high-walled steading, which was a landmark, because it stood by itself and was well built and large. Without telling his lady or grandfather Laertes, the swineherd had made it himself for his absent master's pigs by lining up boulders from round about and topping them with a dense hedge of prickly pear. For outer fence he had run round it a stiff, very close-set paling of heart of oak, the tree's dark core. All in a row inside the pound he had contrived 12 sties to lodge his beasts. 50 each sty held, of the brood sows, be it understood, supine on beds of litter in their pens. As for the boars, they were kept in a yard outside, and were far fewer, because of the drain of the suitors' appetites, which forced the swineherd to keep them daily supplied with a prime fatted hog. So these now came to just 360. They were always watched by 4 wild-looking dogs of the accomplished swineherd's own breeding. Where's the statue? He's not here. He didn't want to come in today. The man himself was shaping to his feet a pair of sandals, cutting them from the hide of what had been a stout ox. Of his men, 3 happened to be out somewhere or other with their herds of swine, while the 4th the swineherd had sent perforce to the city with a boar whose sacrifice might appease the proud suitor's lust for flesh. When the noisy dogs saw Odysseus, they plunged suddenly towards him, baying, but he cunningly let fall his staff and sank to the ground. Yet even so, he risked a savage onslaught there in his own estate, but was saved by the ready swineherd, who flung aside the slab of leather and rushed toward him through the gate on flying feet, shouting and raining stones at the dogs to drive them off. Then he said to the prince, "One moment more, father, and the dogs would have killed you. Quickly, too, and thereby you would have added disgrace to me, whom the gods have already afflicted with a variety of griefs and pains. Here I languish, mourning a godlike master, and tending his fat pigs for others to eat, while he maybe starves for food, adrift in some land or place of strangers, if, that is, he yet lives under the sun. However, follow me inside to our quarters, old man, where our food and wine will nerve you to tell us of you and the hardships you have survived." With no more ado, the honest swineherd led him to the inner room, and there shook down for him a couch of springy twigs, which he covered with the great thick hairy goat skin that was on his own sleeping mat. Odysseus rejoiced at being thus received, and thanked him, saying, "Host, may Zeus and the other immortal gods concede your dearest wish in return for this ready welcome you proffer." "And what was it, Eumaeus? And what was it, O Eumaeus the swineherd, that you answered? My guest, I should sin if I failed in attention to any stranger, even one poorer than yourself. The needy and the strangers are all from Zeus, and with the likes of us, a quite slender gift can convey goodwill, for alas, the state of bondmen is never wholly free from fear when their lords and masters are young. My proper lord has, I think, been denied his return home by the gods. Surely he would have favored me with the endowment a good master gives his housemen, things like a cottage with its scrap of garden and a prudent woman, in reward for faithful labor, whose fruits God has multiplied and blessed, and he has blessed and multiplied my unremitting toil. Indeed, my lord would have largely benefited me as years come upon him in the house, but he has perished, and I would that every one of Helen's kind might be beaten to the knee and broken, in revenge for all the manhood she has undone. See you, my master, was one of those who went to Ilium of the goodly horses to fight the Trojans for Agamemnon's fair name. As he was speaking, he hitched the slack of his smock quickly into his loin cord and betook himself to the sties that held the piglet clams. From their mass he chose 2 young ones for butchery, singeing and chopping them up there before spitting them on the roast. When they were done, he carried them to Odysseus and set them in front of him, still on the spits and piping hot. He dusted them over with barley meal, and in an ivy bowl diluted wine till it was sweet for drinking. Then he sat down face to face with Odysseus and invited him, saying, "Eat now, my guest, of our bondman's ration, this young pork. All fatted hogs go to feed those suitors devoid of ruth or any sense of shame. Yet lawlessness does not commend itself to the blessed gods, who lean towards justice and human integrity. Why, even foemen freebooters feel a foreboding of vengeance and retribution stealing into their heart's core whenever Zeus has let them raid a strange coast and collect plunder enough to bring their ships heavy laden home. Therefore, surely some whisper from a god must have given these men a certainty of my lord's sad fate, for them to have no care either of wooing with decency or of ceasing to woo and going home. Instead, they devour all that we produce, with a calm insolence that has no bounds. During each Zeus-given night or day, they will have their victims, not limiting themselves to just 1 or 2 either. As for our wine, they spill it and lavish it wantonly. The master's wealth was beyond computation. What is going on? Hi. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm just going to keep reading. We're reading the Odyssey by Homer. No hero from Ithaca proper or from the dark mainland possessed so much. Why, not 20 of them conjoined could match his fortune. Let me recite it to you. On the mainland, 12 droves of cattle, 12 flocks of sheep, 12 herds of swine, 12 large troops of goats. Hired men and his herding thralls keep all these at pasture. In the extremity of our island are other great troops of goats, 11 in all, each in hand of trusty watchmen, and daily a herdsman will drive the ripest beast of all these to the roysters in the house. But my plan with these swine is to pen them here out of the way underground, only sending in, out of the herd, what beast I judge suitable." So he explained to Odysseus, who ate his meat and drank his wine in a burning silence, while his longing to injure the suitors grew mightily within him. But after he had dined and was heartened with the food, then did the swineherd fill to the brim and pass the cup, his own cup he always used. Odysseus took it with an inward thankfulness, while aloud he questioned him shrewdly, saying, "Now, friend, who was this wealthy man who brought you, this master whose power and riches you so laud? You say he died vindicating Agamemnon's honor. As one of those, maybe I met him. Pray you his name, for so widely have I roamed that only Zeus and his fellow immortals can say for sure if I have news of seeing him or no." Said the swineherd, that prince of servants, "Old man, no vagrant's body of seeing him will get past me to win credence of his widow and son. It is too much the yarn any conciseless waif might spin to earn him board and lodging. Wanderers land in Ithaca and go to my mistress with their moonshine. She welcomes them ever so kindly and inquires of this and that, while the tears a woman should shed for her husband, fallen in a far country, rain grievously downward from her eyes. You too, my ancient, would soon pitch some story, if it was to be paid in kind with a cloak and tunic. Whereas in very deed his spirit fled long since, abandoning his bones either to the dogs and birds of prey to pick clean, or to lie shrouded in deep sand upon some shore after the fishes of the sea have fed upon him. And this death of his has brought down upon me directly, as upon all who loved him, a load of care. For go where I may, never shall I light upon so gentle a lord, not though I was to regain the home of my birth and the father and mother who reared me." Can I read Harry Potter instead? I cannot read Harry Potter instead. I have no idea what's going on. I cannot read Harry Potter instead. It's not, I always say the wrong thing. I don't know what that means. Can I read Deanne? Sorry. I'm surprised so many people are here. Hi. Yea, deeply as I yearn to set eyes on them and on my own place, today my deeper grief is for my lost Odysseus. See, stranger, how I blush only to pronounce his name, though he is far away. Truly he cared for me beyond measure and cherished me in his heart, wherefore, despite his extreme absence, I title him with all respect. Funny. Why? I don't like J.K. Rowling? No, it's just Copyright. Odysseus replied, "My friend, with your unbelieving heart so certain sure that he will never come again, I shall not merely assert the returning of Odysseus, but seal it with an oath. And I shall claim my guerdon, make it robes of honor within and without, glorious, the day his feet bring him home. Till then, despite my need, I shall accept nothing, for hateful to me as the mouth of hell is one who tells lies out of poverty. So I call upon Zeus, god of gods, and upon this table of my host, and upon the hearth of famous Odysseus, to which I have attained. Bear me witness that all things shall happen according to my word. During this very year Odysseus will arrive, between the waning of this moon and the rise of the next, to take his revenge upon those who dishonor his wife and brilliant son." I'm not on Book Talk. No, I am not. "And your reply to this, O Eumaeus? You said, 'Ancient, I shall never have to pay this guerdon of yours, nor will Odysseus regain his house. Be at peace and drink while we mind ourselves of other things, for I would have you spare these memories to save me the heartache which comes whenever anyone brings back the thought of my dear lord. So we will let pass your oath. Yet how grateful would be the coming of Odysseus to me and to Penelope, as to old Laertes and Telemachus. See, that godlike young Telemachus is now grown into one of my quick griefs. When the gods made him flourish like a young tree, I said to myself, he will be his loved father's peer, of a form and features to make men marvel. And then some earthly or heavenly thing touched his wits, and off he went to Pylos, seeking news of his father. Whereupon the suitor lords set themselves in ambush against his return, that even the name of the royal race of Acrisius might be rooted out of Ithaca. However, we will let pass his affair too, whenever he is to be caught or to gain some refuge. Perhaps indeed the son of Cronos will shield him with his arm. Instead, give me the history, aged one, of your ill fortunes, first clearly explaining who you are and your city and parents, and what ship you came in, and how the sailors brought you to Ithaca, or what sailors they call themselves, for I think you found no dry way hither." Odysseus answered advisedly, "I will be plain with you. Yet I wish we had food and good wine enough to let us sit here at our quiet entertainment and all through the others' working hours. Easily could I fill a year, and still not end the recital of my heart's griefs and the pains the gods have given me. Let me admit to being a Cretan, the son of a rich man in whose house were born and brought up many other sons of his marriage, whereas my mother was a bought woman, his concubine. Still, Castor, the son of Hylax, whose seed I declare myself, made no distinction in honor between me and his lawful issue. Amongst the other Cretans he was held almost divine, having such estate and fortune and splendid family. In time, his fate of death came and bore him away to the house of Hades. Then the sons made bold to divine his property and draw for their shares. They gave me a very meager portion, but assigned me a house, and to it I brought the wife, daughter of a leading landowner, whom my prowess had won me. For I was no sluggard and never shirked a fight. Today my strength has been cropped away by my too plentiful tribulations, but perhaps from the look of the stubble you can guess what my ripeness was. Ares and Athene granted me a courage which carried me through the press of battle. When once I had determined my tactics against an enemy, no inkling of death would visit my high heart. I would post a chosen party in ambush, and then thrust far beyond its leaders to bring down with my spear any opponent less nimble than myself upon his feet. That was the fighting me, but labor I never could abide, nor the husbandry which breeds healthy children. My fancies were set upon galleys and wars, pikes and burnished javelins, the deadly toys that bring shivers to men of ordinary mold. I think such tastes came to me from heaven. Each man sports the activity he enjoys. Before the prime of Achaea went to battle against Troy, I had 9 times commanded men and warships on foreign expeditions, at great profit to myself, with the leader's first choice of the booty to increase my individual share. So my house rapidly filled with wealth, and I became formidable and respected among the Cretans. Consequently, when far-seeing Zeus finally imagined this dread course which had enfeebled the knees of so many men, people clamored for me and for famous Idomeneus to lead their fleet to Ilium, and so firmly was the popular mind made up that we had no option. Wherefore we the sons of the Achaeans stayed fighting for 9 years. In the 10th, we sacked Priam's city, and afterwards embarked for home, a god dispersing the host. My unhappy lot, though, was to be vexed anew by an invention of Zeus the Disposer, after only 1 month's enjoyment of my children and faithful wife and goods. For then my heart prompted me to take my faithful companies and sail against Egypt, after properly refitting the ships. So I commissioned 9 vessels. Crews for them rallied quickly to me and to my feast, which was sustained for 6 whole days by the many divine sacrifices I provided to furnish the tables. On the 7th day, we launched out from the coast of Crete and sailed with so fair and filling a north wind that it made the sea run like a stream in our favor. We sat there just in careless ease, nor did any ship meet harm with that wind and the helmsman to steady us. On the 5th day, we made the smoothly flowing river, which is Egypt, and into its stream I brought our imposing fleet, anchoring it there and ordering my trusty fellows to stand by on ship guard while I put out watchers into picket posts about. But the men gave themselves up to their baser instincts and the prompting of their own ungovernable passions. In a trice, they were ravaging the rich Egyptian countryside, killing the men and carrying off women and children. An instant alarm was given in the town, and the war cry roused the townspeople to pour out against us at the first show of dawn. The entire valley filled with footmen and horsemen and the glint of bronze. Thunder-loving Zeus crumbled my men into shameful flight, leaving no single one of them the courage to stand firm and face it out. Disaster seemed to beset us on every side. Many of our company perished there by the Egyptians' keen weapons. Many others were led living into captivity, there to labor under duress. As for me, I had an inspiration from Zeus himself, yet would rather I had then died and met my final end in Egypt there, for since that day my continued abiding has been in the house of sorrow. My well-wrought helm I hurriedly did off, and let fall the shield from my shoulders. Away went the spear from my hand, while I ran over to the king's car to embrace his knees and kiss them. He drew me to him and had mercy upon me, seating me all tearful as I was on the floor of his own war chariot. Then he took me to his palace, through the hate-maddened throng whose bloodlust set every spear in rest against my life. But he drove them all back in his reverence for our Lord Zeus, whose wrath soonest rises when strangers in his protection are outraged. For 7 years I remained amassing great wealth, for all Egypt gave me gifts. But the 8th year brought in its train a very subtle Phoenician, one of those subverts who have wrought such havoc in the world. His plausibility won me to keep him company even so far as Phoenicia, where lay his house and interests. I stayed with him the round of a year, but when with the march of months and days the season returned, he decoyed me into a ship bound overseas for Libya, on the pretense of my running a cargo with him, whereas really he was exporting me for sale as a slave at some incredible profit. My mind misgave me, yet my hands were tied. I had no choice but to embark with him. Our ship ran before a fair freshening wind as far as the open passage south of Crete, where Zeus had taken counsel to destroy her complement. So soon as we sank the Cretan hills and had only sea and sky in view, he massed over our ship a deep purple cloud which shadowed the sea in gloom. Then Zeus thundered and at the same instant struck the side of the ship with his lightning. She reeled from stem to stern at the divine stroke and was filled with brimstone fumes. All fell from her and were tossed like gulls past the black hull on the huge waves. That was the end to their journey which the gods gave them. But between my hands Zeus thrust the ship's mast, that despite my heart-load of misery I might yet avoid my final bane. I twisted myself about this mast and drifted at mercy of the savage winds for 9 days, for it was not till the 10th black night that the great rolling swell approached me to the land of the Thesprotians, where the king of Phidon received me generously. It was his son who happened to find me lying helpless from exposure and exhaustion, and he lifted me with his own hands and bore me home to his father's palace, where they clothed me anew. At their place I got my news of Odysseus. The lord of the house told me he had been their honored guest on his way home, and showed me treasures of bronze and gold and well-purified iron, laid up by Odysseus within the royal palace, in bulk to satisfy 10 generations of heirs. Their owner, the king said, had gone to Dodona to hear what Zeus would counsel him out of the god's tall leafy oak, whether it were better, after so long an absence, to re-enter fertile Ithaca publicly or privately. Besides this, the king swore to me, while he made libation in his house, that the ship to take Odysseus home to his loved country was launched and her crew equipped and ready. Only a chance made him dispatch me first, because there was a Thesprotian ship clearing for Grenaried Dilicium. He charged her masters to convey me most surely to its king, Acastus, but they preferred to follow their own evil imaginings, which plunged me to the very depths of despair. For when the ship had put out far and was in the mid-sea, they schemed to enslave me then and there, stripping me naked to exchange my good clothes against these rags of a tunic and cloak, you see. In the evening, they made the tilled coasts of vivid Ithaca and hurried out upon it foreshore to prepare their supper, after securing me in the well of the hull with coils of stranded rope. I think it was the gods themselves who let the knot slip off me easily. I applied my clothing on top of my head, lowered myself down the slippery after part, and launched out into the sea on my breast with an arm-over-arm stroke that quickly carried me to land beyond their party. I pushed up country as far as a particularly dense thicket, and there huddled into its full-leaved bushes. They were wildly distressed over my escape and beat here and there for me, but at last understood that a wider search was unprofitable and went back into their ship. Only the gods made my hiding so easy, and by their mercy, again, I have found myself the guest of an enlightened man. It seems I am granted a new lease on life. And your answer, Eumaeus, the pig-keeper? My unhappy guest, these sufferings you narrate touch me to the heart, save and accept your tattle about Odysseus, which is all awry and unconvincing. Why feel constrained by your plight to invent so wild a lie? My mind is definitely made up on this point of my lord's return, knowing for sure that the gods all hated him, and that they did not grant him death at the climax of the war, in his friends' arms and amid the Trojans. For then every Achaean would have helped set up his tomb, and he would have devolved great afterglory upon his son, whereas now the random winds have borne him meanly away. So it is that I hold myself withdrawn here amongst my pigs, never visiting the city except when bidden by circumspect Penelope to hear some news which has casually blown in. Then how they sit round and ply the talebearer with questions, not merely those who sorrow for their absent lord, but also those others who are enjoying a free run of their teeth in his substance. Only I have lacked heart to query or chop questions since that day, and Aetolian cheated me with his tale. He had killed his man and wandered over the face of the earth till he reached my place. I tended him with all kindness, and he told me that he had seen Odysseus in Crete with Idomeneus, patching his storm-battered ships. By the summer or at harvest time he would be back, he said, enriched and with noble following. But you, old misery, whom fortune has brought to my door, have no need of lies to ingratiate yourself or to warm my heart. That is no road to my regard and charity, which derive from fear of Zeus, the stranger's patron, and from pity for yourself. Odysseus the subtle replied, Your heart must indeed be forward, if this my sworn testimony fails with you and is discredited. See, we will make a bargain and have the gods of Olympus as witnesses between us. If your lord regains this house, you shall clothe me freshly in mantle and tunic before sending me forward to Dulichium, my goal. And if he does not return as I say, then bid your bondmen hurl me from that great crag to teach the next beggar not to invent. Why, cried the honest swineherd, what public name and fame should I have for ever and ever after that, if I brought you into my quarters and entertained you only to set on you and rob you of dear life? With how clean a heart, then, would I supplicate Zeus, son of Cronos? See, it is the supper hour. I hope my fellows come back to time, that we may cook something choice for supper here in our place. As they spoke of it, the droves and their swine appeared. Very shrilly, the clamor went up from every sty where the beasts were being herded into their yards for the night, but kindly Eumaeus called to his men, saying, Pick out the best of the porkers for devoting to this my foreign guest, and we will have our share too. Over long have we put ourselves to great labor and vexation in keeping these white-tusked boars, only to see others eat for nothing, the product of our pains. While he called to them, he was cleaving firewood with his trenchant axe. The others dragged in a fat boar of 5 years old. They set it by the flaming fire, while the swineherd's ripe understanding prompted him to fulfill his exact duty towards the deathless ones. He began by pulling hairs from the head of the tusker and throwing them into the fire, while he implored of all the gods a homecoming for wise Odysseus. Then he drew himself up, and with a billet of wood spared from his chopping, he clubbed the beast. It died. They slit its throat, singed it, and quickly quartered it for the swineherd to cut a first slice from every limb of lean doubled in fat. These offerings he dusted with barley groats and flung into the fire, while they were cutting up the rest for threading on the spits to roast with care. Afterwards they drew away the spits and heaped the flesh upon platters. The swineherd stood up to apportion it, for his eye was just. Most precisely, he divided the whole thing into 7 helpings. With an invocation, he set the first aid for the nymphs and for Hermes, son of Maia. The rest he handed round. For Odysseus, he picked out the most noble part, the long back of the white-tusked beast. The spirit of the king was so gratified thereby that he cried, I am praying, Eumaeus, that Father Zeus may love you even as I do, for your conferring this signal portion upon a lone man. To which you, O Eumaeus, replied, Eat, my fine sir, and be happy with what there is. The god gives and withholds at pleasure, being almighty. So he pronounced, dedicating his first scarings to the eternal gods. Then he made libation and passed the dark wine to Odysseus, the waster of cities, before sitting to his own portion. Their bread was brought to them by Mesalius, the swineherd's private slave, whom he had bought out of his own means for some Taphians during his master's absence, without telling his lady or old Laertes. They reached out and made play amongst the prepared dishes until their appetites for meat and drink had been assuaged. Then their replete instincts veered towards bed, and even as Mesalaus was clearing the remains of food away. However, the night proved dirty. The moon was wrapped in clouds, and Zeus reigned through all the dark hours, while a powerful west wind, that wet wind, never ceased to blow. Odysseus had in mind to prove his swineherd by seeing if he would doff his cloak and lend it to him, or require a cloak of one of his fellows for the guest he had so entertained. Wherefore he said, Hear me now, O Eumaeus, and you others, while I let myself go as your wine's intoxication tempts me. Drink will set the most solid man singing or giggling with laughter, if indeed it does not push him forward to dance, or make him blurt out something better left unsaid. However, now I have loosed my tongue, I had best go through with it. I wish I were young, with the enduring vigor that was mine in the days when we imagined and took on a surprise raid against Troy. Odysseus was one of our leaders. With him was Menelaus, son of Atreus, and for third in command, by their arranging, went myself. We worked our way round the city, till we reached its massive walls, and there we lay by the swamp beneath the citadel, our panoply weighing us down into the reeds and dense brake. As we waited, the night turned very foul. The north wind came down, and it froze hard. The snow began to fall, chill and dry like rime, while ice plated our shields. The others all wore cloaks over their tunics, and so slept well enough, hunched up with their shields over their shoulders. But I had left my cloak with my fellows before setting out, having been fool enough to think I should never feel cold. So there I was, with just a gay gherkin and my shield. When the third part of the night had come, and the stars were going down, I nudged with my elbow against Odysseus, who lay next to me, and whispered to his attentive ear, Son of Laertes, surely I will not be counted long among the living, for this cold is more than I can bear without my cloak. Something possessed me to come out only in my vest, and now there is no helping it. Even as I spoke, a notion flashed into his mind, for he was in a class by himself, when either scheming or fighting were in question. He hissed at me sharply, Be quiet, lest some other Achaean hear you. With that, he propped his head on his bent arm and said in a low, carrying voice, Listen, friends, I fell asleep, and God has sent me an important dream to show how much too far from the ships we have come. I would have someone bear warning to Agamemnon, son of Atreus, the shepherd of the people, that he may move us reinforcements from the leaguer. At his word, Thoas, son of Andramon, leaped up nimbly, flung aside his purple cloak, and broke into a run for the ships, while I snuggled into his garment till dawn shone from her golden throne. Now, as I remarked, if only I could be young and strong again like that. For then some swineherd of the manor would lend me his cloak, from that double motives of charity to a guest and pity for a stout comrade. But as it is, I look for no regard, because of these rags disfiguring my body. To which replied Eumaeus, Old man, that was really a good story you told of him, not one word amiss or wasted. So tonight you shall not be stinted of a coverlet, nor of anything a luckless client may reasonably expect from those within power to help him. Only for tonight, of course. In the morning you must flap away in your own rags again. We have here no store of cloaks, nor changes of tunics, but just the suits in which we stand. Yet when Odysseus's darling son comes back, he will present you with an outer garment, an undergarment, and speed you whither your heart's longing claims. He rose as he spoke and pitched to bed by the fireside, covering it with sheepskins and goatskins. And after Odysseus had laid down, he drew over him a thick and ample cloak that he kept by him for changes in the worst weather. So there Odysseus slept with the lads beside him. Only the swineherd had no heart to lie there apart from his swine in comfort. Wherefore, to the joy of Odysseus, who marked this diligence for the welfare of his absent lord's estate, he girdled himself for going out to them, looping a sharp sword about the breadth of his shoulders, and wrapping himself in a wind-defying cloak or solid weave, about which went a broad tough goatskin. Also, he took a sharp javelin as defence against dogs or men, and so sallied forth to lay himself under the overhang of the crag, where the white-tusked boars slept in their shelter from the north wind. Okay, that's all for today. I have a YouTube channel. It's called KA Reads Classics, and it's the same name as this channel. It's all one word, no space. I will upload this, and I hope everyone has a great day, and thank you for reading with me. Bye.